We are here today to talk about NAIC. In this year's NAIC, we had LeagueIRL, and one of you two prepared the event, organized it, and one of you two won the event. So there are no two people better to have here to talk about that. So, Connor, Andrew, how are you doing?
Doing well.
Yeah, doing pretty good. Just got back from NAIC. It was great seeing everybody. Yeah, we just had our Cube IRL League, the second annual. So, yeah, I mean, Connor, how did you feel about it? I thought it went pretty well.
We got a ton of first-timers, which was awesome. We got a ton of regulars, which was awesome. Yeah, I was just really impressed by the support. I was really impressed by the turnout. For the draft, we had 30 players, which was crazy. That's 12 players more than last year. And then we were able to cut to a top 8. And we didn't really have any issues running it either day. We had some drops transitioning from day 1 to day 2, which we expected, but overall it was a really good event.
Good. So to take a step back, if I'm here, I'm new. What is LeagueIRL? What is this? I want a cube. What is the LeagueIRL event?
Sure. So LeagueIRL is the once a year in-person Cube League tournament that we run. And so the original League IRL was 18 people. It was last year, essentially the first year that NAIC had happened again since the pandemic. And essentially the Cube Discord grew over the pandemic into a community, which didn't really exist pre-pandemic. So the first time was definitely a learning experience, but we did still have a solid turnout. And then this time, we were able to get everything coordinated well. We were able to get a bunch of participants, and essentially everybody just gets together to draft in person at NAIC. We had 3 pods of 10 this time, but we just base it on how many people we have. And then we play 5 best of 1 Swiss rounds into a best of 1 top 8. Unfortunately, we do have to do best of 1 exclusively because we try and run the event after the end of day 2 Swiss so we can get as many people playing as possible. And there's just no time for best of 3 at that point. If we did best of 3, it would essentially be the same duration as champs, which is a whole weekend in itself. So that is essentially what League IRL is. It's just a big old cube tournament. We build a whole bunch of the same cube. We get a whole bunch of people together, and then we draft and we play a Swiss tournament, kind of like a League Cup.
And the person who won this tournament is also here with us. Andrew went on a tear, apparently. What deck did you play on the Delta Mutant pod, Andrew?
Yeah, so I played Salamence EX. It was mostly just a colorless deck with like fire starter. So I had both Blaziken and Typhlosion for fire support. I did have the Swampert with Washout to move energies. But I was primarily relying on Firestarter to progress the board. I also had like a ton of draw Pokemon. Had like P2 back up to draw 6. Had like Pidgeotto, Airmail. I had Delta Milotic with Sharing. Yeah, we were kind of just packed to the seams with draw Pokemon. Supporters not so much, but the 10-man, you kind of just take what you can get. It worked out pretty well. So I had a bunch of tools like I used Salamence EX obviously as the free retreat. It was very useful. I had cards like Slaking with it's like power lock as well as critical moves. Pretty good. Got a surprisingly high amount of value off of Delta Kingler with the prop up pinchers attack. I don't think a lot of people expected that one to be as efficient as it was, but it worked out really well. Also had like a Flygon EX, the colorless one. I didn't use it a ton, but it was nice sometimes as like a pivot. And yeah, just kind of tools like that. Yeah, I was not expecting, see where we landed was basically the idea. Yeah, ended up going pretty well overall.
Yeah, there's a lot of them to unpack here. There's the 10-man, which is like people say that the 10-man Delta Mutant draft format is one of the best draft formats they've ever played because it's such a hard draft. There's so many things you need to keep in mind. Everyone is fighting for lines. There's absolutely no open lines. You only draft, I think, 68 cards in the 10-man because you have to add a few cards. You have to add up to a 680, right, to make the cube playable with 10 people. And just playing IRL, I think playing IRL is something that I do a lot in my own cube, but I think a lot of people that draft with us online, they don't have that experience of playing IRL as much as we do. So can you two talk about it? What is the main difference between like playing IRL and playing on the Google Sheets that we always use and on tap?
Well, so it's a lot easier to track stuff in the Google Sheet, I would say. And you have a very clear view of all the cards. So I personally find that it's a lot easier to remember what was in packs, and it's really easy to take notes if you want to follow specific cards. Whereas in person, you don't have all that. I mean, you can take notes, and sometimes if I'm really trying to win, then I'll write a couple things down on my phone while we draft. But it's generally more challenging to draft IRL.
I'd also add too that like cube knowledge is also a bit more difficult in person, because online it's much easier to pull up Cube Koga and have it on like another screen and look at lines and be like, okay, how many of these are in here? When it's like IRL, it's kind of like, you could pull it up on your phone, but this is a lot to keep track of. So I will say, I think like the big overarching theme is like knowledge is much easier to obtain online than in person.
Yeah, I agree with that. And one other thing that I only did once, I did draft once at LAIC, and NAIC is just such a bigger thing than my local event, but drafting there was weird because there are so many things happening. There are people going around, people stop and see what you're doing, they ask around, you meet new people in the middle of the draft, in the middle of the game. So I surely felt that lack of focus of playing in a big event. And I imagine that, I don't know how NAIC is, but you probably were in a pretty packed place.
Well, what's funny is it wasn't actually that bad. Compared, I mean, I've been at EUIC as well, and honestly, the events are pretty comparable. I'm sure LAIC also is on the same kind of. They go about the same amount of lengths. Obviously, like NAIC has more people, but the event space is bigger. So I never really felt cramped. There was definitely a lot of space between us and then the side events, and then obviously the stream and main event stuff. Like we were on the other end of the convention center, so. As far as like distractions and stuff, I felt like it was pretty minimal. I felt pretty comfortable where we were drafting.
Yeah. Like day one at NAIC is really packed, but after that, it thins out a lot, and there's actually a ton of space in the venue. So didn't really have to worry about that at all. Although I will say that there are definitely distractions from the other people around the table, just because you're in person with people, they're going to be more likely to want to banter and talk and that kind of thing. Get online in the same extent, to the same extent at least. And so while there isn't a lot of like white noise going on, there is still a prevalent distraction element.
I imagine that when those things go all together, it makes like for a pretty different experience than drafting Cube League. We just drafted Cube League today, and I imagine that drafting the Cube League in your house, in your computer, you can use your phone, you can do whatever, and draft in a big event IRL, especially for Connor, because you were probably trying to organize the event in the same vein as play in the event, so that's probably pretty hard for 30 people.
Yeah, it was a lot of work for sure. And the worst part by far is just wrangling everybody to get started. Once everybody is there, it's pretty easy, because what we'll do is we'll announce the round end time in advance. So if people want to go get food or whatever, then they know exactly when they need to be back. And so we don't really run into any issues there. But figuring out exactly how many people are signing up, exactly how many people are going to be drafting, how we're going to arrange the pot sizes, like that is the kind of stuff that I personally find pretty stressful, just because you have a short amount of time to gather a ton of people together, and you are always running the risk of having to cut somebody.
Yeah, you never really want to cut someone from your main event, and 30 people is like it's hard for me to think about 8 people drafting in one place. I guess in a big event it would be even harder, but 30 people, and that's also 3 full cubes of Delta Mutant. I imagine that Connor has one, and who else brought the cubes?
I actually don't have one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the first time we had four. It was me, not me. It was Mike, Josh, so JL, the other cube builder, and then Willie Aza and Odysseus. And this year, Josh and Odysseus weren't at NAIC, so Willie actually built a second one, and then essentially kind of ad hoc gave it out as the prize to the winner.
Oh my god. So Andrew has a full copy of Delta Mutant?
Yeah, I sure do. That was I didn't know that until after the finals.
I don't think Willie had decided that until he was packing up and realized that he had a whole nother cube to transport home, and I think he was just looking to get rid of it, and it seemed like a really good prize for the winner.
Yeah, I was just the benefactor of this.
The receiver. Of course it's a cube made of proxies, but even then it's almost 700 cards, more than 700 if you count the basic energies that probably didn't come in, but it's still a lot of cards, a lot of sleeves, probably a box to keep them all together. That's a pretty cool prize. That's the coolest cube prize I've ever seen. The cube you just played.
I was very excited. You know, it's quite a bit of work, even just proxies itself. Like, if I was to do something like this on my own, I mean, it costs a few $100s just to buy all the sleeves, get the container, and get printing and all this other stuff. So, yeah, I was very, very excited when he offered that. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take a copy.
Okay, so let's talk about the tournament then. Well, Grover talked about his deck, but what did you draft, Connor?
So I drafted what I thought was a really good deck, and I still think it's a really good deck. I drafted this really cool fighting base, like fighting dark metal lightning deck. I had 4 different multi-type stage 1s, so I could evolve from any type into any type, which was really cool. But so I lost one game on a dead draw that I could have gents, and I probably should have. It was I had 3 basics, and I had a stage 2, and I had an energy and a ball toy, so I thought I would psychic balance up and draw a few cards up to my opponent's hand and hopefully hit something useful. Unfortunately, I drew 2 evolutions, and my opponent played their hand down to 4, so I didn't get to draw any cards, and then I basically just went draw pass for 7 or 8 turns, so the psychic balance would not have ultimately gotten me there anyway. Just because it draws off the top of the deck, and the top of my deck was garbage. But, so I took a loss there, should have gentleman's, it's okay. And then I lost round 5 because I prized my 1 of dark energy. So I played Dark Electrode with a 1 of dark energy so that I could get the extra energy and then evolve. Unfortunately, I prized the dark, and that prevented me from taking a knockout on a dark Crobat that resisted my deck, and I just didn't have the damage for, and it was not good. So the prized dark energy lost me that one. Overall, I was really happy with my draft. I thought I drafted exceptionally well. I thought my deck was really good. It's just I misplayed on the gentleman's for sure, and then luck was not on my side for that last one. But it was good. I don't know. And then I bubbled out in the end. It was like a 50-50 bubble, half bubbled in, half bubbled out, which actually turned into a 75-25 bubble because one of the top 8 people didn't realize that they could bubble in, and so they actually ended up not being there for top 8. So the next guy got in, but that was not me. I was the last of the 3 dudes. So
resistance doing its magic. And yeah, the way you say that hand was pretty keepable. Like, we've all seen our fair share of hands full of unplayable cards, and when you say like a hand is fine, it's like okay, it can get there, you usually keep it. And that one was just kind of like a low roll, I guess. Wasn't really your fault, just your deck fatigued of 5 rounds of play. Like, okay, enough.
With the gents, I basically decided that I had misplayed off the gents, like during my turn 1. I'm like, I definitely should have gentleman's this hand. This doesn't go anywhere. I don't really know what I was thinking. And yeah, it did not go anywhere.
Oh, that's sad. But 3-2 is still a really good, not really good, but a good record for sure. You just kind of bubbled, which was unfortunate. But someone who didn't bubble, someone who won the tournament, is also here. And I wanted to ask Andrew if you have any cool stories, because you were the person who played the most amount of games, you and your opponent in the finals, of course. And you were the person who won the most amount of games. And that deck looked really good. If you want to look at the deck, I probably have it in the description of the video. It's an absolute horrible photograph. Congratulations, because it's like stuff is all, everything is unorganized. I saw that, I was like, oh no, come on. But that
was kind of organized.
It was fine, sure.
It's a real piece of art.
You could call a piece of art. If you didn't win, I would be like, come on, just make it easier for us. Since you won, like we would have to look at the list anyway and study it for future leagues and champs and whatnot. So I wanted to.
That's good information then.
So I was thinking about it, and Andrew's deck is probably tied for, or maybe just the single most tried and successful archetype in Delta Mutant, which is like the big energy, water, fire, and the other one potentially just being psychic with curse stones and sometimes dark Pokemon and sometimes water Pokemon, whatever. But yeah, it was. I don't know. I feel as though it was kind of comforting to see that big energy deck take a win, because I think it's been a little while since that has done well. And Psychic was kind of oppressive for a little while, and so just seeing that big energy strategy come back and win was really cool, at least to me.
Yeah, and I think that's like, as like a player too, it's like one of the decks that's a little bit, I'm almost gonna say it's kind of easy to put together if you have the pieces, just because like it's been played multiple times. So I've definitely seen this deck in like past league runs, and then a few champs where it's like, oh, okay, I generally know what I would expect to play in this. So, but yeah, the deck's really powerful. I mean, like Salomon TX just gets in there with Dragon Lift, being able to pivot out of attackers. It's just such a great, you can synergize that with so many stuff. So having that plus just like tons of ways to accelerate energy is just really powerful. The kind of ironic part about the game. So I did have 2 rounds where I had no shows. So I feel like I played a very average amount of Pokemon in comparison to the rest of the tournament. But that is to say, I mean, I feel like I had to earn my wins though. Like there was no easy round where I felt like, oh, okay, this was free. Every opponent was pretty well prepared for, they had good decks. They had, I feel like every game kind of came down to like the last inch, which is fun. That's always a fun way to play Pokemon. Is it's as cool as it is sometimes just like run people over. It is equally more exciting to like know that you had to play well to win.
The format you were in, the best of one, is like you don't get to brick or you don't get to make a big misplay. You need to win every game you play. So, and I fully agree. That deck you played, I think Connor had Is It Dragons in the first league, if I'm not mistaken. That was so long ago. And that is exactly this deck, if I'm not mistaken, with the water Salamence also being a crazy good card. The card is amazing, by the way.
So it pretty much mirrors that deck exactly. I don't think, the list was definitely not card for card the same, but basically the same idea. It's always been good. Big energy, big damage. Salamence EX is a really nasty card. Both Salamence EXs are really powerful cards. There are just a lot of payoffs in the colorless line. I also saw Andrew use Slacking really effectively. That was a cool card to see do so well. And so, yeah, the colorless line has tons of payoffs for all the energy you can generate with fire and water. And fire and water on their own don't have those payoffs in the same way. So just kind of a tried and true. Also, the colorless line comes with crazy consistency options, which is always really nice.
It's really good when one of your better attackers evolves from your Porygons or your Delcatties that your opponent's never gonna really expect. Well, if you have the energies there, they'd probably expect. But if you have a lot of acceleration, just a Delcatty just sitting there, it's not gonna evolve. Oh God, what is that? It's always a surprising thing to see. And I mean, Firestarter is just one of the better abilities in the cube. Just getting resources back, and you have 2 Firestarters. That's so good. That's so much acceleration.
I think the most overlooked card is going to be Surprise Time Machine, though. That card is just insane. I feel like that enables the entire deck just to do ridiculous stuff. I somehow managed to get 3.
Yeah, we forgot to talk about
of
that, right? Like
in the context of a 10-person draft, it's just kind of funny.
I think Time Machine and Delta Mutant is an easy, at least 1 or 2 of in pretty much every single deck. When you have a lot of really strong powers, then you could play 4 even and be really happy with it. But even in decks that are totally powerless, even curse stone strategies, I even think 1 to 2 Time Machine is really powerful in those. And just because you have so many more options with your Time Machines than you do in a regular cube.
That's what I found playing my games. Sometimes it was even just like, okay, I can melodic and then Time Machine into a Kingler, and like I have DRE in hand, so it just enables you to like pull off like attacks that wouldn't have been possible otherwise, especially when your lines are more thin like mine are. Like I'm only running like a 3-2-2 fire line, so it's like, and one of them's Delta Melodic, so it's like it enables you to like use the power, shuffle it back in, get a different Pokemon in, or if you're using like Delcatty, you can be like energy draw, surprise Time Machine, energy draw again, like all of these insane combos. So I was the most impressed by that card at the end of the tournament.
Also, easy to get impressed by a card when you have 3 of them, and it's really crazy that you got 3. I can kind of understand when you only draft 68 cards, you see like a mid supporter and a Time Machine. You're not going to take the Time Machine, are you? Because you have only a very few options. You're not going to get that supporter in the wheel, so it's a card that everybody knows it's good, and it is better in the Mutant Contest. Absolutely, no question there. But the fact that you got 3 or 4? 3, right?
Well, so another thing I want to talk about too. So I do have 3. The card also that I was really impressed by is Herdier, the allows you to pick up items.
Oh, yes.
So technically, I did have 4, which I did end up using 4 in a few games with Herdier. But yeah, Herdier also was like really strong and being able to pick up like recovery and being able to pick up any search if I needed it. Like the card kind of just felt like just a dowsing, so it was really nice.
It's really good when your dowsing machine is also your stage 1 evolution. I played with that card a lot in Blue 3 Cube, and every time it impresses me every time I play it with it. That cube also has Drizzile, so it's kind of like Drizzile, but for stuff you already used, and also it just evolves. You don't even need to use the ability if you want to like make a quick slacking to stop your opponent's setup. You can just evolve and wait a turn, evolve again. That card is so good. I think it's one of the most underrated cards in that cube for sure.
Card is super powerful. I think Delta Mutant is almost always just a rotation of people succeeding with cards that hadn't succeeded before and kind of redefining the meta just over and over and over.
That's very cool, right? I think Delta Mutant is probably one of the most played cubes we've ever had. Just like every time there's an event, someone posts a picture of their Delta Mutant draft. And so we have a lot of knowledge about the format. We know what was good. We know that nowadays Gothitelle is busted and ridiculous. Maybe 1 year ago we were like, oh yeah, this card's fine. And I really like a cube like that when every type gets this shot to win. Even types that don't really have good finishes. Like, does Grass have a good finish? I know that it has come second a lot of times. Mike really likes piloting the type with Vileplume and Dragonite and Crobat. But I can't remember a time where it won the thing. You two might know better.
I don't know if Grass has won, but I think it's always been solid. I know, I mean, it's one of the best types to build a Curse Stone deck out of. Probably the single best type to build a Curse Stone deck out of. Yeah, I don't know. Grass, and it's interesting too because Grass has the Curse Stone angle, but then it's also got this really powerful ability core that you can use. It can really take advantage of some powerful basic attackers like Latios Star, and so I don't know. I think Grass is powerful. I think it has kind of maybe an undeserved reputation for not being the strongest, but I think it's fine.
Do you two remember the Grass decks from LeagueIRL? Did someone make a crazy Curse Stone deck, or was it more of a...
There was a Grass in... I remember I played a Grass deck in top 4, and he kind of had like I think it was mostly just mono... I'm trying to remember everything else in the deck, but it was like, I remember it had Venusaur, Vile Plume, EX. I remember I was getting power locked at the beginning through a muck. That was kind of annoying.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, it seems solid. I mean, we had a really close set, or a close game, I should say. It wasn't a set. I mean, like, they have enough disruption tools, and like the paralysis and the poison angles can get a lot of value, especially like, you know, my deck wasn't playing a lot of switch just because of the free retreat. And then also just like by nature of that, you know, I had a Typhlosion in the active at one point and it was poisoned, so I can't use Firestarter with it. So like there's just like subtle ability lock with that too, with the status conditions. So I mean, I think grass has legs. I just, you know, sometimes it just hasn't gotten there. But I think that's not to say that, like, you know, if you're in Delta Mutant again, like grass wouldn't be a 3-0 deck. You know, I think you definitely could build a very successful deck out of the archetypes it has in it.
I'm pretty sure it has gone 3-0 a lot of times. It just kind of doesn't get there in the big events, which is a shame. I really like grass in that cube. Beedrew is just such a crazy card. It paralyzes and poisons and gets more cards. Has only one retreat. The attack cost is not out of this world. Card is amazing. Is Beedrew still in the cube? I hope it is.
Maybe.
It was the thing that paralyzed you, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Are you talking about? Are you talking about Flutterwings? Okay,
Yes.
yeah, it's still in the cube.
Yeah, it should be forever because I really like the angle of grass of going multi-deck, going both on the stop powers, stop items, and just going into flood mode and energy trans with Venusaur. You can get Sunshine Grace and Flutterwings to get your grass guys. I really like the type. I wanted to ask more about the other decks. So what did you play against in the finals?
So I played against Willie Ozza playing against Psychic.
Oh, I have a podcast about that.
Yo, right, yeah. You know, he just loves the Psychic boys. I'm trying to remember everything that's in there. I mean, it kind of looked like a stock Psychic package, with like he had like the Scythe Shadow, Gardevoir, and the Metagross. And I'm trying to remember like what else he had. It was mostly kind of just like, you know, flood the board with Psychic attackers and swing and
probably.
Yes, he did have Bayonet. That's right. It was looking like it was going to be really close, and I think he had some dead draws or something at some point. Okay, he's playing like almost like a Delta Metal package too, because he had like a Needle Queen and the Blastoise Delta as well. Looking at his list now, so yeah, it was like pretty much almost all the Psychic stuff except for like Flygon EX, because he had Scythe Shadow, Gardevoir EX, Metagross, and Sceptile EX. He did have like the Claydol EX as well, which wasn't that strong against me, but I thought that was interesting. And I think by the time Claydol hit the field, I was knocking it out with Slacking, so,
No.
or something like that. So I remember like by the time I started attacking with Slacking, it was just it wasn't a threat. But he had like pretty strong. I know he had really good recovery, and I think he had really good. I mean, he had like all like the good Psychic acceleration. So I don't know, Connor. Did you have any thoughts on Willie's deck?
I thought it was good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Psychic should be. It's probably time to like explore Psychic a little bit more, because I think people have generally been building the same deck over and over. Which, granted, it's a good deck. But I don't know, Willie's deck didn't necessarily stand out to me in any particular way.
I guess aside from being like the boogeyman of modern, Delta Mutant, that's a phrase I just said.
I feel like it's a couple of toppers away from that status though, because Gothitelle and Flygon EX Delta were really powerful, and without those options, the type is still really good, and trump card Slowking as well is out. So the type is still really good, don't get me wrong, but it's not the slam dunk that it once was.
Yeah, and that's probably good for everyone involved, because I know at some point I was kind of tired of seeing the Psychic decks do well. I never really saw which card was the problem. Usually, like, sure, Flygon EX was definitely a problem at its time. I'm happy that it's normal now. And it can compete with normal decks like the one that Grover made, because that deck has been played a million times, and that's almost like the Delta Mutant matchup, right?
Yeah, we both just decided we'd build whatever Connor wins with. So.
That's easy.
I think the thing too in a 10-man draft, it's hard to also like. I don't know. I say this and I could be wrong, but I feel like you kind of take whatever the draft gives you. So
course,
it's sometimes difficult to be innovative, and you're not really thinking like that. You're also just thinking about trying to build the best deck that you can. So I think it probably makes sense that both of us kind of came out with pretty like tried and true archetypes. It just so happened to meet each other in the finals. I think like obviously like an 8-man draft, you have a little bit more room to explore other options, and maybe in your draft strategy too. Maybe we should also be thinking about different things with Psychic. But I did feel like in this draft, it was kind of like you're drafting with 10 people. Some of them have drafted in Cube League, some of them haven't. So the draft strategies are all over the place. So you're kind of just like, all right, what line can I attach myself to and like ride to the end?
Yeah, I guess that's most people's draft strategy. Drafting 68 cards. I mean, if you played a lot of Cube, you know that 68 is like kind of the lowest number you can really go when you're talking about a cube with evolutions in it. So what, let's say like 42 cards end up in your deck? No, more, like 48. So you barely have space to take cards you're not gonna play, and you're barely gonna wheel cards as well. How big is the pack with 68?
I think we did
4 packs.
Yeah, was it 17?
17 and 16.
Yeah.
Oh yes, of course. Yeah. So like you're gonna wheel a pack of 7 cards, and it's gonna be like 7 kind of bad cards because it's 10 people in the table. It's such a different experience of playing any other cube I've ever played. Really, Delta Mutant 10-man, it really is really good.
You know what? Maybe I think it's probably coming off the back of 11-man slower car. The 10-man actually didn't feel as bad as I thought it was going to.
What an amazing phrase.
Yeah, 11-man slower car the night before really did kind of redefine the difficulty of a 10-man draft.
Because I felt like reasonably comfortable throughout the draft, which I was going into it expecting it to be like mass chaos like it normally is. But I felt like there was a lot of opportunities to just like take good cards, like establish yourself in a good engine, and just go from there.
I didn't think the 10-man was too bad, and of course, we've done it a few times now, so it's not as novel as it once was. But yeah, the 11-man slower car the night before really led to a contextualization of how hard 10-man Delta Mutant really is.
Okay, we need to talk more about that then, because I got curious here. What are the numbers behind an 11-man 672 cube?
I think we removed a card or two. I don't remember exactly how the math worked out. I know we had to like remove a couple cards, and then each person got essentially 60 cards or 61 or something.
Oh God!
And we still built 60 card decks. We did not drop the deck size at all.
Yeah.
No way.
That would be
no way.
What a terrible decision it would be to do that, because
yeah, I complained about it the whole night, but it was actually pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, the slower cube really does hit its kind of peak jank or its stride, if you want to say, in that just extreme jank environment. Like I went 3-0 with like Armaldo Walrein, just random partners. Like they don't really synergize at all. But you just have the power cards. I played against Mike, and he was super far ahead, and I chained Healing Shower Milotic like 3 times with an attacking Walrein, and I got the comeback as a result of that. And
I saw that. It was crazy.
The games are just super jank, but really, really fun. I had a blast with it.
Yeah, I did too. I drafted Salmon CX Blaziken.
Again?
I did.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I was like, oh, this works. It's not like a similar situation. I mean, like, I see Salmon CX, and I'm like, oh, this is a good card, I'll take it. And then, like, no one was on fire, so I was like, okay. Actually, all of fire kind of existed in, like, one round of packs. Like, I remember, like, a lot of the toppers and a lot of, like, the stage ones, and maybe some of the basics were, like, in, like, 3 or 4 different packs of that, like, run. So, like, no one was interested. So I was like, oh, well, Firestarter's a good card, I'll take it.
That is kind of a new height of cubes. Lower car 11-man. I wonder what's gonna be the first cube to hit the 12-man run. Where I don't even know if 600 cards does that anymore.
I think Delta Mutant could play 12.
Oh my god,
Probably.
really?
I
You
do.
can stretch it
Yeah.
as far as you want.
10 is 10 has become easy mode. Gotta go up to 12.
Dude, I can't wait for 15-man Delta Mutant.
Oh my god.
20-man. We're actually doing cube IRL, which is 1 cube.
Just one cube.
You get 30 cards, 60 card deck.
Well, I remember we were joking about like one pack of 6.
Yeah.
It's the whole cube.
I think that would be a lot of skill. But no, I think actually like it's kind of funny how like a year ago these concepts felt like very like intense and like very out there, and now they're starting to get more normalized, and it's kind of stretching the boundaries of like, you know, how many people can you fit in a cube draft, and we're kind of finding that a regular 6-man draft is like almost less fun out of like just not as challenging. I mean, it's fun for I think like a casual experience, but the competitive experience really is elevated by just like the amount of stress you're put under by just lack of cards given to you.
Yeah, I would pretty much always at this point rather play 10-man than 6.
Oh, for sure. And I think the creativity between decks too is also really fun to watch. Just because that jank factor, it's just so entertaining.
Yeah, absolutely.
You two are absolutely speaking my language here. I didn't even need to say a word because that's literally my thoughts about Cube. The more people, the more jank, the harder the choices, the better the experience.
I did want to comment on the just the nature of drafting Cube IRL is interesting, like Cube League, just because it does bring around people who have who are from the server, who have, you know, cubed before in their friend groups and are trying this out for the first time. I think it's just interesting that everyone kind of like the way you draft like a normal Cube League is going to be different than what you approach like a Cube League draft, just because it's just there's different people prioritizing different cards, and there's 10 people. I thought that was really interesting, just how draft strategies can change just based off the people around you, and like, you know, like the reactions to like, oh, I'm not seeing any supporters now because everyone took supporters early. So then there's like this ebb and flow of like what people to prioritize first pack, what to prioritize second pack. I think it's really interesting how that changes.
Now that we're talking more about the other cubes played at NAIC, I know that you played like, how many cubes did you play? Like a lot of people were telling me that they played base fossil, they played on the 11-man, then the 10-man, there's Ben's cube, there's Sharpie cube. What was the overall cube experience of NAIC?
I played 5.
I think I played 5 as well.
I played Ben's Cube, I played Base Fossil, played Slower Cube, played Ultimateness, and I played LeagueIRL. And the only one that I lost any games in was LeagueIRL. So that was pretty unfortunate.
And I imagine that Grover played the same?
No, actually. Well, I played 4 out of the 5. I didn't have a chance to stay for Ultimateness, but we played Roblox Mutant late Saturday night.
So multiple pods even, and that's a lot of cube. The one I'm most interested about is Base Fossil, because I played in a pod of Base Fossil once.
It was pretty jank. Like it was really fun. I will say, like it was a great time. It was a very different experience from what we're used to, especially with the super refined cubes that we get in the server. But it was really jank. There were lots of games that were just kind of, I play a 2/2 line, but my 2 evolution cards are in the bottom half of my deck, and I just never saw them because people don't have search for the most part. I ended up winning that one with it was ostensibly a damage swap deck, so it was Alakazam and it had some cool stuff, but really Alakazam only came out and mattered in one game. I was too far ahead in other games for it to matter, or in one game where it would have really helped, it was at the bottom of my deck. But it was like double Mime, double Zapdos, which is actually a really strong card with limited energy removal, like a Snorlax and a Scyther, and double Kangaskhan, that was really big. And so the big basics are really powerful, for sure. And because the basics are powerful too, there are a lot of decks that once they hit a certain board state, it's almost impossible for them to actually knock out a Mr. Mime.
If you played back then, you know you have to always keep an eye out for Mr. Mime. So, and there's no goop in this because it's only made fossils, so you gotta poison it, I guess, if you can. If you're not playing grass, I guess. Unlucky you.
Yeah, it's tough. It's not fun. My opponents do not have a good time when I put down that.
You played that one as well, Andrew, right?
Yeah, the base fossil one.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
What'd you play?
I announced Hurricane.
Oh, you
pretty
announced
cool.
Hurricane. I love
Yeah.
absolutely love
Hurricane
Pidgeot.
Skull.
Yeah. That one didn't go too well for me. I mean, like I won my first round, but then it was like round 2 was like, I think I had a 2-1-2 line of Pidgeot. And then I just never saw a Pidgey at the bottom of my deck, and it was like if I oak away 2 Pidgeot, I'm never ever getting this into play. So it was a close game, but I just didn't get there. And then in my round 3, my opponent flipped like 6 heads in a row on Bubble.
Oh, Bubble. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, man, I'm getting shock locked by Squirtle.
Oh god, yeah. Well, we're looking at the base fossil with like the same lens as we were looking at, Slower Car and Delta Mutant. I was talking to Jason one of these days, and he wants like the moments in that cube to be, oh, I got my Pidgeot, I use Hurricane. That is the moment, not the 2 losses you got afterwards because you never saw a Pidgey. I played the 3/3 line of Egg in my deck, and I got a singular big explosion in my 3 games. So that cube is just like that. Like it is made to be like that. There's not a lot even the creator could do to change it. It would like flood the cube with bills and oaks, and that would go in a different direction than what Jason wanted. So I really like base fossil. It's almost like you're playing a different game, but like if you play with the right people, I guess, the ones that they don't get bummed when they get paralyzed 7 turns in a row. I think that cube is actually brilliant on what it achieves.
I wasn't even really mad about it.
Oh no,
I mean, it was like it was fine. I mean, it's just kind of funny. We was like flipping coins. Like I think I had like a tongue active, and we're both just like. I think between the both of us, we kind of actually both flipped. I think like 10 heads in a row. But I had a good time with it though. It was fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that cube. Before playing it, I was very skeptical, but then I played it. I was like, oh, okay, this is actually pretty fun. Okay, so one cube you both played was Ben's cube. Ben Grove, long-time cube builder player, owner of Pastel Cube. He has his own IRL cube, as many of us do. What was the experience like playing that one?
I think Ben Grove's IRL cube is super fun.
I always love it when people bring the IRL cubes because I think it's just super cool to like try something different.
And it is very different, right? Like the way you would balance a cube for people you're gonna play on your LGS, people that are not really used to cube, it's different than what you would do in a cube for the server or for Cube League. So what would be the main difference from that cube, you would say?
I mean, it's not like a super atypical cube or anything. I think it's just mostly singleton, and I mean, it's wildly different from Sharpie Cube, which is the experience that most people have had with Ben Grove's cubes. But yeah, I mean, it was just a good time. It was fun. I don't even know if the list is on CubeGoga.
I think it is.
It was like a mix and match style kind of cube where it was like I think very thin lines, and that's what I thought was interesting. It was like that type of archetype, but just in a different style. So it's like different Pokemon and mix and match, and I thought it was cool. It's something a cube I had virtually no experience with, so went in completely blind, and I don't get that experience that often, so I found that pretty exciting.
That is very fun to go completely. It's also very rare to go completely.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like a unique thing now. Like if someone hands me a cube that I haven't seen before, and then I have to like figure out what I'm gonna draft. I mean, that's always fun. And then you get to see it like while you're drafting, like, oh, this is in here. That's cool.
Okay, so I did find the cube list online, and so yes, it does have some mix and match elements because the lines are pretty thin. They're not like chaos thin, but they are pretty thin. It kind of occupies this mid-high power. It's listed as a high power cube. I think it's kind of mid-high probably, which is a space that isn't explored that often. And so there's some pretty neat cards in here. There's the HS Typhlosion paired with the Prime, which is like 3 for 120, which is way too much for most mid-power cubes.
I played this cube. I remember now. Now you said that. I think he ran this cube at some point because we had like 4 or 5. I literally did that. 3 for 120. Yes, I remember that very clearly now.
Yeah, and there's like Psychic Mirage Gardevoir, which is usually too strong for mid-power. And there's Lantern Prime, which can get kind of out of hand. Although I think Lantern Prime's probably fine for mid-power. And then Donphan Prime and Conkeldurr and some of the really powerful evolutions like Vengeance Flareon. So you get to see a lot of really cool cards that are either too strong for mid-power or too weak for high power.
Those cards are like decently easy to find as well. So the other thing about IRL cubes is when people don't want a proxy, they just kind of have to make them what they got. The primes are very affordable nowadays still. Making a cube like that is very cool, and usually that's the way that people start to make their cubes. They're like, oh, I own that card, I wonder if I could play it somewhere, and then they make a cube. And there's our primes and the black and white X and Y esque evolution cards, like the Kelders that would never solve standard play. So there are 2 cubes we haven't talked about yet. There's one that it's kind of a very old cube with a new name, new cards, new rules. That's Rulebox Mutant, Andrew's very crazy Rulebox only EX, GX, VMAX, EX again, EX for the 3rd time cube. How was that run? Because that was the most crazy cube I've ever played. For sure.
Oh, it was amazing. I built it out finally. And then thank you to Connor and Bengrove and everyone for helping me sleeve it and get all the cards ready. Because I just did not have time to prep it. But we had to build it out on Saturday and then drafted it that night. It was really cool, especially playing with like real cards. So it's all like EXs and GXs and Vs and stuff, but it's definitely a very shiny cube because all like the holofoils and everything. Vic was commenting on it that it's kind of hard to draft sometimes in person just because it's like when you first get introduced to cube and you're handed all these shiny cards like level X's and stuff, and you're like, okay, I'll take the shiny card because I don't know what these ones do. That's kind of like the vibe, and sometimes, which I think is kind of cool actually. Blue ended up building this really cool like turbo deck. He ended up getting like Luminion, Eldegoss, double Dedenne, Lele.
Whoa.
I don't know, he didn't have Lele, but he did have like a bunch of setup basics. So he just kept we were playing this game. He kept spinning his wheels really hard, but he wouldn't do any damage. I'm like, Blue, you gotta do something to me, man. He did have like Sylveon VMAX and like
He had a Sylveon V that he illegally evolved into Sylveon VMAX.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that he forgot to put in a stage 1.
No.
Because VMAX is their stage 2s in this cube. But I can't remember what his attackers were, but he just had like a bunch of gas. I just don't remember what that materialized into, but I'm sure it was something good.
That is a very classic cube deck, gassing into absolutely nothing. That's a deck I see every like 5 cubes of like, oh yeah, I set up, now I don't do anything.
I think Roblox Mutant as a cube, though, and I think if Andrew said this about his own cube, it would sound big-headed, but I can say it because it's not my cube. I think that Roblox Mutant really is like a new thing that really has not... It's a totally new cube, totally different experience from any other cube that I've ever played, and it's really fun, and you're kind of in it with everybody else. Like, nobody else has ever played anything like this either. Even the people that have played Roblox Mutant a couple times, nobody knows what the good decks are. Like, you just find some colors and find some Pokemon that do some cool stuff, and you just go. And you just see what happens, because there's so many incredibly powerful Pokemon, incredibly powerful attackers and strategies and synergies, and I don't know, it feels like everything is viable just by virtue of everything being really strong, but it's not paced like high power. High power is really an exchange of one-hit knockouts. But Roblox Mutant isn't like that. One-hit knockouts are not crazy common. Yeah, I think Andrew's done a really great job with making the cube unique and interesting.
Thanks for that. Yeah, it's been a while to run and just see how the cubes evolved, because and Dobby knows this because you drafted the that week-long spree of drafts.
Yeah.
When the EXs were 2 prizes, and just how the cubes changed, and now it kind of, I think, flows a lot better. And it does just have this experience that is just so different. Like every time people draft it, it's like you're cubing for the first time again, because it's like, what is going on with all of this stuff in here? But I think it's fun. I'm excited to just see what other people build. Like Caleb actually built a mill deck for the first time. I hadn't seen someone build this. He went with Charizard GX and Mega Camerupt and Houndoom EX.
Of course he did.
So he had.
Yes.
It was pretty good. He almost actually decked me out. He was really close. I think he had a few unfortunate draws. I think he was a little bit slower to get the mill started, and then he ended up milling my Grant, which was super unfortunate for him because I was playing fighting.
Oh no!
There's a moment where he used Mega Camerupt to mill my Grant, and then it was Houndoom, because he Houndoom milled my Grant, and then I was able to respond with an Urshifu knockout with Grant. I was
God.
That's very unfortunate. But I had maybe 6 cards left in deck, because he was able to go through my deck with Mega Camerups, and he had the Charizard GX to mill 10, and he was able to just spam Houndoom EX too. I thought that was super interesting. I'd never thought about a mill strategy in this cube. I feel like Vic went with his classic checkmate style deck, because he built the Alolan Sandslash spread kind of deck.
No way he built that again in a different cube, right?
There's 2 Naganadel GX in the cube, and both of them got taken before they could get to him.
Oh no!
So he kind of built mostly water, but he was playing it in a style that was the Alolan Sandslash checkmate.
Yeah.
He also had 4 Scramble Energies, which Scramble Energies in this cube, they work on GXs, so you can Scramble Energy and Alolan Sandslash, that sort of thing. I'm trying to remember what the other decks was. I drafted an Urshifu / Lightning deck, so I had Jolteon VMAX, Morpeko, but I also had double Lycanroc with Urshifu.
Which Urshifu were you talking about?
Rapid Strike.
And are we talking about VMAX?
Urshifu VMAX.
Oh my god. Because you're talking with an old person here. There's 6 of them new Urshifu cards. I don't know which one. I do know that one. Just hearing that card is in the cube makes me go damn. Someone was playing Mega Houndoom. Not Mega Houndoom. Mega Camera. Someone is playing Urshifu. That's such a crazy cube. I love this cube. Oh my god, it's so...
When you put it that way.
It's so funny. That is, I don't know. I have such a different view on, the card game. And when someone, plays a bad card that never did anything against, a crazy good card that just won NAIC, in the same cube, it's oh yes, this hits the spot. This is literally what I wanted. And this cube, I think, does it better than, I don't know if better than any other cube, but it got me the shock. I haven't felt that shock of looking at a cube since I looked at the first cube in 2016. So I was what? What the fuck am I looking at? Oh my god, I absolutely love Rulebox Mutant, and I sure hope I get to play it more, because
for sure.
It is an experience of all time.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Davi.
And another one of the experiences of all time is the Cube of Ultimateness, or Ultimateness. Is that a word?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
The name is kind of intentionally ridiculous. The original idea behind the cube was, so I changed the name over and over and over, because I just wasn't happy with anything, and eventually I just started saying, okay, if you win the cube, you can change the name. And then we hadn't played it for a long time, and I kind of forgot that I had done that, and so Ultimateness just kind of stuck. I think the name might change maybe one more time to something that I actually like, but it is the Cube of Ultimateness for right now. And the idea behind Cube of Ultimateness was I wanted to put a bunch of cards in a cube that I didn't see in cube very often, or ever. And so it plays a lot of kind of niche level X's, and I'll get the list pulled up here.
Good idea.
So I think the cube was essentially founded out of, I want to put Hippowdon level X in a cube, and I want it to be good. And that's kind of how Ultimateness originated. And so it is a very bizarre cube. It has almost no fire line to speak of, but a ton of fire support. So you get rewarded if you splash fire energy into your non-fire deck. It has kind of like the middling SP Pokemon, so like Palkia G level X. There's no Luxray, like Dialga G level X. It has Electivire FB level X. Yeah, it does. It's just got like some 2-prize rules that make it so that you can play more cards and they're not broken. So like Tyranitar Prime is a 2-prizer, Tyranitar Stormfront is a 2-prizer, and the conclusion is a cube that feels, at least to me, feels strange. And the meta has evolved a lot over time. So during teams, people went in and they drafted a ton of like evolutions, and they drafted a ton of Salamence, and they said, okay, these lines are broken, they're too strong. I acknowledge like, yeah, there are some unintended interactions going on here, or like these lines are more powerful than I expected. So I intended to nerf them, but going to NAIC, I just didn't have any time in advance. So I was like, I'm just going to bring it as is. And actually the last event I went to, I just brought it as is. And some decks that people just absolutely ragged on, like Hippowdon won at Milwaukee, I think, which people just called that deck horrible, or like, can't beat anything. And it beat Salamence in the final.
Oh my god.
And then, so like I went 3-0 this time with Dusknoir Vileplume, and the whole idea of the deck was to get a Dusknoir level X active, get it knocked out, and then promote Vileplume EX, so the opponent can't remove it. And that was really powerful. I actually beat out a couple, or I guess I played the same evolution deck twice, but it had like all the powerful dark evolutions. So all the powerful dark evolutions and the Flareon. So it hits some of the Vileplume line for weakness. It hits all the Dusknoir line for weakness. And I was able to come out of that winning both games that we played. And this was before any energy evolution nerfs. So that was also a deck that didn't really see play at all before. And so originally I was not super happy with the cube, just because people were saying that certain parts of it were broken, and it looked like they were. But ever since then, it's been really strange stuff winning and doing well, and that's what I built the cube for. And shortly here, before the champs vote goes live, I'm going to be making an edit where I remove a bunch of, if not all of the evolution line. I got to think about exactly if I want to remove all of it. I might just trim it down to Leafeon and Glaceon, but either way, I'm going to trim down the evolution line a bunch and throw in like a Lost Zone package, but like a Lost World Mew Prime kind of two Lost Zone archetypes in one. So Gengar Prime, Mew Prime, you can either use the Lost Zone yourself as a toolbox, or you can fill your opponent's Lost Zone and play Lost World and win the game. So I feel like that really feeds into the flavor of ultimateness as a cube that just uses a bunch of weird stuff and breaks a lot of conventions as far as line structure and that kind of thing. And it's, I don't know, I'm just really happy with it. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's in a good spot.
I didn't get to draft it at the event, but I did have a lot of fun drafting the cube at teams, just because you get to play all the fun cards.
Oh, yes. I was trying to remember my team's run. For the first time in my life, I saw Ancient Origins Vileplume active with 3 energy cards doing Solar Beam. I was like, oh my god, I never saw that card in the active. Only on that one time where the guy used Lysander and lost the game immediately. But like attacking 3 for 70, I was like, oh god, I can't deal with that. That is too strong. So yeah, I really enjoy Ultimateness as well. It was a weird teams run, but I'm happy that the NAIC got good feedback. I can't believe someone said Hippowdon can't win. I love that line.
Yeah, people, I feel like there were a few months where or even a short stretch where teams feedback was pretty heavily negative. Just like I think people just kind of got into a culture of really critiquing hard the parts that they didn't like. And that was really all the discourse around it. Now, I think teams has gotten better. I think people are much more fair in their assessment of teams cubes. And as a result, it is a lot more fun now than it once was to run your cube for teams.
So, getting to the end of the episode here. So, apparently, NAIC was a banger, total banger for Cube. You guys played as much Cube as you could. And I really wish I could have been there. Really jealous of the Cube experience with the guys, with the gals. And do you have anything else you want to talk about for NAIC?
I was just gonna say, I feel like I really maximized cube time by playing Lost Box.
Oh no! Oh no! oh yeah, there was a standard event there, wasn't there?
Yeah, there's a side event.
I
Just
forgot
happened to
about
me,
that. Yeah, I kind of forgot about that one. Apparently, it wasn't too important since you guys played a lot of Cube.
yeah, definitely not important, and that is why we were cubing.
Yes, absolutely. As all good things happen, they end in Cube, and apparently your runs at NAIC ended in Cube and then started a lot of good Cube. So I at least would be really happy if I were you. You also got to see the playmat of NAIC, which I got to see earlier at LAIC. That was, I think, one of the best playmats they've ever printed. That's so beautiful.
I love the theming this year. They did so well with the evolutions.
Yes. That sounded like a very crazy weekend of a lot of Cube action.
Yeah, it was really fun. And it definitely, like, I've been going to NAIC since, like, 2017, which I know I'm a baby compared to, like, Connor, but...
My first US Nats was 2010.
Oh, dear.
But the point still stands. It's different now having a whole community of cube players you get to interact with. Where before you're lucky if you get to run 1 or 2 cubes, and then obviously both of us cubed 5 times this past weekend. So it's definitely a different type of event now that community is established.
So yeah, any final words for the send-off of NAIC 2023?
It was a great time. LeagueIRL was fantastic. Seeing Victor make top 8 was fantastic.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just a great event, great trip. Really excited for the next one.
Yeah, I'd say I agree with Connor, and it was awesome. Getting to meet people and even people who I appreciate the people even who weren't playing in the main event just came out anyway. Like Ben Grove came out, just bringing their cube, having a good time. I think these being around the community is what makes this event that much more special. So if you're thinking about going next year, I mean, even if you don't want to play standard, like there's a ton of stuff to do even without playing in the main event. So if you're thinking about going, you have a cube you want to run, definitely come and check it out.